Hi. So I made some appearances, first appearances in a very long time around town last night with my dog. And, I've been thinking about this for a few days. I was wondering what I was going to say about it. And considering how much, the escalation of conflicts as it is right now, that I can't help but think about, okay, so I looked at some shorts, just seen some shorts, say like about Daniel W. Swift, is a U.S. Navy SEAL. Became a cop for a short time, went back to the SEALs. Let's look him up. Navy Times, listed as deserter. Here, I'll take my script off for you, Navy. You can see who and what I'm doing. Anyways, was killed in the Ukraine. This was last year. Took an RPG, and then a Canadian combat medic, it was saying, died trying to rescue him. And then I think about this phrase, which has a lot of weight amongst the warrior culture, and like the Bushido Code. So what's the Bushido Code? Righteousness, loyalty, honor, respect, honesty, courage, and consistency. So this sounds a lot like the DEP. Where is it? Shit, I gotta use I gotta use a search tab now in my freaking bookmarks. Department of State, no. Defense. Fundamentals of Canadian Defense Ethics. No, I didn't bookmark it. Downloaded it, I think. Okay. Okay. All right. Ethics in the Canadian Forces, making tough choices. Let's see this. Workbook. All right. Well, that's 111 pages. Holy crap! So this is a course. Case studies, discussions, acknowledgments, glossary. But this death before dishonor thing came from Caesar. That's it, Rome. Remember that you must die. Memento mori. or that we all die, rather. This is from Quora. Morris ante dedicum. So, first uses, it says, I will die more ably than I will be dishonored. So, moritus potius quam dedicoter. Dedicorer. Or moranis prius quam dedicorer. I will die before I will be dishonored. Memorius citrus quam dedicorer. I will die quickly, then I will be dishonored. It comes from Latin, obviously. It is better to be dead than to compromise. A human being is a whole once a person begins to divide into shoes, pants, disorders, diseases, food preferences, and all the other nonsense we use to discriminate each other with, the human being becomes a compartmentalized sum of parts. But we all know what the whole is greater, that the whole is greater than the sum. In other words, we become fractured. Other answers, and like, I look at this man's face, and it's this story is written all over it, and it is his pictures here. And of course, I don't spit on the ground, spit on the graves of the dead, because it doesn't do anything. But this ego and this mentality of death before dishonor is what leads people to do stuff like this. When egos prevail, systems fail. And taking the high road, especially when you're, I'm not a soldier here. I'm not a frontline, gun-toting soldier here. So I don't know what it is to face that, but I faced my own death in a confined space. I've spent numerous hours inside of dark, enclosed spaces with nothing but my thoughts. And, I almost died in a water bomber in Calgary. No one seems to believe me when I say that. And like, I've witnessed attempted murders on the roads, and more recently, there's been some really aggressive, even on the roads here in London, Ontario, some aggressiveness because of how well known my car is. And someone tried to sideswipe me yesterday. And then like other instances, of course, when the convergence, right? And some people just they don't control their vehicles very well. That's their excuse anyway. So like, especially when you're a SEAL, I get it. Everyone's always gunning for you, right? Even in your own community, when you retire, people want to knock you off because they want to say, "Oh, I took down a SEAL," or "I took down an operator. I took down a first tier assaulter. I took down a DevGru or whatever. I took down a Ranger. Fuck him, right?" And again, a lot of these people are just like me. They were Boy Scouts. They were Cubs. They live a life of discipline and of organization. So when they come home and like they just don't, it's the whole Hurt Locker thing, right? Like they feel obligated to run into these burning buildings. But if you get to a certain point in life, and it's like, there's always going to be another war. There's always going to be another conflict. And if you want to support, the next generation, Fight the war at home. Fight the war at home. If you've already done numerous tours, you know what? Start training other people. You know, again, you know, I can understand the disgust and the disillusionment and the confrontation with mortality. So decision making, making tough choices. You know, do I stay here and suffer while I feel compelled to be this firefighter or be this cop and be this symbol, but no one appreciates how much suffering that really is. I tell you, I appreciate you. Again, my life has been surrounded by vets. I am a product of the military as much as anybody else. You know, everyone, see, the tip of the spear, right, is the most delicate. And the hardest fuckers of us break the easiest. And there's no shame or dishonor in that. I was thinking about this again earlier, is running through my head. I'm laying down because I can't sleep, right? I can't even get alone. And there's forces that be. I know that's kind of, that's really wishy-washy, right? The forces that be, or the powers that be, these faceless entities. You know, that is again the Leviathan, this giant monster that you got to slay that dragon. You take down that monster, or at least tame it. The rage, I understand the rage, I do. But that doesn't mean you're obligated to fight for someone else across the world. Especially when there's so much to do here, in this culture, in this moment. There is no dishonor in retreat or in healing or trying to figure out exactly what happened and who betrayed you along the way and why that happened. It could take you the next 10 years of talking to someone and introspection for you to figure that out. As we advance into the 21st century, the challenges we faced at the beginning are still as threatening today as they were then, particularly as the Canadian Forces are called upon to take on increasingly demanding responsibilities in military operations. So this was published in 2013. These require our men and women in uniform to interact with cultures and environments of which they often know very little. Decision making becomes more complex and perhaps more uncertain in determining what is the right thing to do. As a result, the Canadian Defence Academy has created a publication to assist our men and women in uniform in preparing for the complexity they will face. In essence, we trust it will facilitate their preparation for operating in ambiguous and chaotic environments. So in other words, survival instinct. The world out there, again, as reflected in another short, after Daniel Swift's, right? What was Swift's rank? He was a specialist first class. He was 35. He's younger than me. And he left behind, what, 4 kids? Because he couldn't stop fighting. A failed marriage. Task and purpose, right? Yeah, okay. Again, I'm looking at him and I just can't help but feel the Hurt Locker scenario. You know, and then I gotta ask, why are you running into this burning building for revenge, right? You're committing suicide. And suicide by Russia. I may not know what it's like to take a life with a gun, but I could put a 470 in the 9 from 100 meters away. I know what that feels like. That thing kicks like a fucking mule. And the 50 cal probably, in all respects. Here, I got a 50 cal. I don't know how old this brass is, but I do know the damage potential. Yeah. And I get it. You know, there's no worse a prison than being in a relationship with someone that you don't love. And all they do is find reasons to antagonize you. So you feel like it's easier to just go back to what you know in the mud, the blood, and the beer than it is to stay at home with an emotional terrorist. And you weren't equipped to deal with that kind of fight. You spent your entire life seeking domination. But the strongest, the smartest thing that you can do is step away. People like Daniel are too valuable to everyone else to see die on a battlefield for nothing. You know, especially for a third party, right? The whole soldier of fortune thing. Why would you trade your life for money? Why would you feel like that's the only choice? I get it. I really do. It's very depressing. It is very depressing to come back and be rejected or not be understood. And no matter who you talk to, even your own friends or your old buddies, don't understand your conflict, or they look at you like there's something wrong with you. It's dishonorable to express your emotions, or it's soft to learn how to write poetry, or it's soft to learn how to paint. It's some faggy shit. There's so many stories like this that this is one of the things that keeps me up at night, because here I was doing my own operation, and I couldn't get close to anybody because of the culture at hand. It would involve experiencing something very similar. It being used by a woman. And then I feel guilty because I didn't start this project sooner. And my art, because of 2004, more than likely influenced some people to join the forces, go to Afghanistan, and then spill their blood in the sandbox. I don't feel comfortable around a lot of men, because of the sexual assault and the betrayal of the arts community. And we face the same challenges everywhere, and you're not always going to be using a gun or a knife to resolve those issues. Appropriate force is bullshit. It's bullshit. Especially when the cards are stacked against you. Very soft rep. Wait, AWOL. Carrying brands, right? Those are brands. BREN. Someone I know is in the Ukraine right now. I know people like Daniel get roped into this stuff frequently. And then you're used as pawns for someone else's game on a chessboard. So I got one more thing I'll show you. I've had these blanks for a very long time. Stored appropriately, of course. So there's the question. What's that, 223 or something? 556? It sure as hell ain't 7 by 962. I like the smell of gunpowder, I do. I like going to the range. I like the meditation. Blessed be the peacemaker. So, what do you want to be? You want to be a pawn? You want to be a pawn for someone else's game? Or do you want to be a king on your own board? Take your pick. If you don't ask for help, you don't fight for yourself and your life at home, then you'll die on the battlefield for nothing, for someone else. And that's a shame. If you haven't heard this lately, I love you. And thanks for sticking around. Just think about it and breathe. There's always tomorrow.